Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a scatter plot in SPSS. This is mostly just for fun. You don't need to do this if you don't want to, but if you would like to, after you run your descriptive statistics and your correlation analysis, you can go ahead and build this scatter plot also. It kind of will give you an idea what the chart builder looks like in SPSS, and it's also going to help us understand the importance of having the correct level of measurement on your variables for the type of analysis that you're doing. So we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit about whether or not you can use an ordinal variable for a Pearson's R correlation. And I had always been taught that Pearson's R is for a ratio variable or an interval variable, so variables that are measured on numbers, scales. And there is some indication in the textbook, and I've also seen it done in practice, that you can use an ordinal variable for one of your variables in the Pearson's R correlation. So that's what I did in the activity demonstration for today. I used an ordinal variable. It was the drinking question, the age of first alcohol use. And I used the scale, a ratio variable, which I had to create for the sexual intercourse, the age of first sexual intercourse. So let's build a scatter plot with those. But before I show you how to build the scatter plot, I need to point out that SPSS would not even let me do add a trend line, add the trend line to the scatter plot so we could see kind of where the estimate of the correlation line would be using this variable age of first alcohol use as an ordinal variable. So to get it to work, I actually had to fudge things a little and change this measure over here to scale so that SPSS would think that it is using two ratio or interval variables. So if you're going to do this scatter plot and you want to add the trend line to help you read it a little bit, you'll need to do that as well. So just come over here on this Q40, the age of first alcohol use, and change it from an ordinal to a scale variable, okay? Just using this drop down here. And then you will need to save the data set before it will let you do anything with that. And see here, I saved the data set, so here comes my output viewer. I'm just going to minimize that for now, and let's start working on this scatter plot here. Okay, so to build graphs in SPSS, you go to this Graphs tab. Click on that, and we're going to use the chart builder, which is that first option there. Oops. As you can see, I've already done this a few times this morning. Okay, so we are wanting to do a scatter plot. So you go to the Gallery tab and you choose Scatter Plot. And we want the one that has this trend line in it. And that's going to help us see the correlation in the analysis. It'll be a visual representation of that positive correlation that we got in our Pearson's R analysis. So this is the one we want. You just click on it and move it up into this box, okay? And on the y-axis, we're going to put the sexual intercourse variable. So the age of first sexual intercourse will go on the y-axis. And again, all I do is click on the variable and drag it and drop it where I want it. The x-axis is going to be this age of first alcohol use. So let's click on that, and then we're going to drag it over to the x-axis. Okay, now over here is a bunch of stuff that you can edit if you would like. The only thing I need for you to edit for this is the element properties. We want to add a title, so that's right here. And SPSS is going to give us an automatic title, but let's do something a little more explanatory. So we're going to say, click on that custom dot there, and then start typing correlation between age of first alcohol use and age of first sexual intercourse. So that'll be the title of our scatter plot. Okay, and then let's see if there's anything else we need to add. You don't need to do anything with the chart appearance or the options. We'll leave those as they are for now. Let's look at this basic elements and see if there's anything. Nope, everything's looking okay there. We don't need to change anything. All right, so let's go ahead and click OK and see what we get. All right, so we have this scatter plot here, and this kind of shows you why it is best to use ratio or interval variables for the regression. Because you can see all of the responses are actually set on these lines that correspond to the groups, because we don't have true ratio variables or interval variables that we were using in that correlation. We kind of fudged both of them to make them into a ratio variable. Okay. If we had used a true ratio or interval variable where you could have responses that fall between these ages, like if the response 13.5 was allowed, then we could have some dots in here as well, instead of having them all where the categories meet. Okay, but we did manage to get our linear equation line in here. So this is the correlation line. It represents the relationship, generally speaking, between the two variables. And you can see that it does trend upward a bit as we move across the x-axis here. This line is going up a little bit. It's not, completely flat. It's not going up and down. It has a little bit of an upward trend to it, which matches our positive correlation that we came up with. The other thing you can notice when SPSS builds this chart for you, it adds this r squared linear equals 0.026. Now that r square you might recognize as being the coefficient of determination. So in the next short video, I'm going to show you how to calculate that coefficient of determination using the results you got from running your correlation in SPSS. So that'll be in the next video, but that's it. That's all there is to doing a scatter plot. I can say that they are more interesting looking if you're using an actual ratio or interval variable, because the dots have a different spread to them. You would come up with this same trend line, but there would just be a little bit more variation in these dots, which, remember, each dot represents a case. So you have a 14-year-old or someone who was 14 the first time they had sexual intercourse, and this 4 represents the group, whatever age group that is. I think it's probably, let's see, 11, that is oh, I can't remember what the groups are, but you can go back to your data set here and see, okay, the 1 is never drank, the 2 is 8 years or younger, the 3, 9 or 10 years old, 4 would be 11 or 12 years old. So we'll go back here to this, and we see this 4, which stands for the group that is 11 or 12 years old at the age of their first alcohol use. And we come up here, and this dot represents someone who was 14 when they had their first sexual intercourse, and between 11 and 12 when they had their first alcohol. So that dot right there represents that person's response. All right, that is it for the scatter plot today. Again, I said that you can either do this, practice with it if you would like, or just watch the video so you can see how it's done. That's up to you. There's nothing on the end of module survey about the scatter plot, so it's mostly just practice if you want to go ahead and try that with the data that I've given you. All right, thanks for listening.